you are Yogesh Dilhar.
Yes, sir.
You passed out in 2016
Yes, sir.
and you did your plus two.
So from Army Public School, Chandi Mandir,
Which year?
so 2011.
How much time it takes into National Law School?
So 5 years, sir.
5 years or 4 years?
So 5 years.
5 years. So now it is 6 years down the line. What have you been doing after that?
So for 2 years after that, I had two jobs, sir. The first job was at ICICI Corporate Legal, which I worked for a brief duration. But then, sir, I got a job with a political consultancy as an election liaison for a political party. I did that for a year. And since then, sir, I've been teaching part-time to finance my UPSC preparations.
No, but we are told that there are a lot of demand, people go to corporate sector and all that. And nobody is left to go for the civil service. So how is it that you are here?
So there's been a change in trend, sir, since the past 5 years. More and more people have been looking towards the government sector, sir, because it's more challenging. To be honest, sir, I think there's a perception that it's at the frontier of problem solving. The challenges that one faces while working in the government are far more enticing than one gets in the corporate sector, not to demean one or the other, sir. That's why, sir.
You tried 3-4 times already?
Yes, sir, this would be my fourth attempt, sir.
In your opinion, what is the pitfall there?
So, and the pitfall with my preparation, sir. Strategy and fear, sir. So first there was a problem with my strategy, which, sir, I, for example, did not clear CSAT in 2020. I did not clear mains in 2019. And as soon as that strategy pillar was corrected, sir, I think I corrected the fear pillar also, sir. I was always afraid of failure. And after 2020 CSAT failure, I decided not to be afraid and live my life alongside my preparation, sir, which is why I think.
Yogesh, when you do think of going for civil services, at what time of your study or what time did you think that I should make a career in the civil services?
So, when I was in standard 10th, there was a teacher of mine, Mrs. Rakhi Saxena, who introduced me to the concept and told me about the work that civil servants do. However, that was more induced.
That was in 12th?
So in 10th standard.
10th standard, okay.
So I've always been working for that. But sir, my motivation actually came from meeting a particular gentleman by the name of Mr. Pushpendra Rajput, who was the Chief Electoral Officer of Himachal Pradesh in 2017. So when I was liaisoning for a political party and doing that work, I realized he was the smartest person in the room. He had immense patience. He carried himself with dignity, honor, and the aura that he carried inspired me to advance the cause that he was working for. And since then, I decided that that's a job I want to do one day. So,
are you in touch with him?
Sir, he's actually right now working in UPSC itself, and since then I haven't contacted him, sir.
So he's talking about fear and all that.
I have a problem, and you've got to sort it out. We find on the university campus most of the boys who join law, and we ask them, "Why are you here? Do we need so many advocates or judges?" And we know there are so many cases pending. Do you have an idea how many cases are pending in Supreme Court?
So the last time I checked, it was in the Supreme Court. It's 60,000 around, sir. But national level, it's more than 4.5 crores, sir.
How many?
So 4.5 crore cases, which would be pending at the national level, sir. At the high courts.
Can you assign some reason for that?
So there are many reasons, sir. One, sir, is judicial vacancies. 30% of the high courts and even greater percent of the district courts at different levels, sir. Two, sir, there's a culture of adjournments, which are in some senses not only tolerated but sometimes encouraged.
What's wrong with the clearing of the cases?
So there's a structural issue and then there's a legal procedural issue. So the structural issue is that we're a society in transition with rather old age ideas on what justice is. And we do. There are many.
I heard somewhere that because I'm not very good in law, but I know how the changes are taking place. They were saying that a lot of redundant laws have been removed. Is one. Second, how many new laws have been enacted? to expedite these cases?
Sir, removal of redundancy has been a pillar of government's efforts since 2010, sir. And sir, that in fact, the Honorable Prime Minister encouraged all chief secretaries at their levels to reduce archaic laws. And sir, while it has helped to an extent, it has cut down the red tape. I think the burden on the courts might not be eased up by sheer removing of archaic laws, sir.
Which government passed RTI?
Sir, it was in 2005. It was under the Prime Ministership of Dr.
How
Manmohan Singh.
effective it is?
Yes, sir.
How much effective it is?
So, Right to Information Act has been a rather empowering tool, sir. It has led to a culture of transparency.
Most of the establishments feel that whenever somebody goes to RTI, it's disturbing the peace.
So, like most processes in life and in government, sir, I also believe in a balance. So, there are the concern for transparency, which is more than justified, sir, should be balanced with the privacy and national security, sir. So, if there are some compromises to be made on account of privacy and national security, sir, I think those would have to be made, sir. So, if there is a feeling in the government that it tends to stop progress on transparency or endangers national security, I
I
think
will come back later. I have only one question. You have said Hindi, you have studied.
sir, in my class 10th, sir.
In
Class 10th, sir. Class 10th in
10.
Yes,
10.
sir.
Any poem you remember?
Yes, sir. Sir, one of my favorite is Ram Prasad Bismil's Sarfaroshi Ki Tamanna. Sir, Ram Prasad Bismil's Sarfaroshi Ki Tamanna. That's my favorite poem in Hindi, sir.
What's the difference between Radha and Mahadevi Verma?
So between
Mahadevi Verma.
and sir, the second object of comparison would be, sir. So, sorry, sir. Could you please repeat that?
Mahadev Verma and
Mahadevi Verma.
and
And Nirala.
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 Suryakant Tripathi Nirala.
Sir, while I am not, sir, I did read both of these poets, sir, in school. I do not remember Mr. Nirala's composition, sir, but I do fondly remember Mahadevi Verma's composition, sir. And I remember one where she's sitting in a garden and describing the beauty around her, which I as a deliberate mark on this.
Madam.
Yogesh, you have mentioned in your hobbies you love to read linguistics. So, can you tell me the difference between linguistics and literature?
Ma'am, under the modern conception of linguistics, because it's an old subject, ma'am, ma'am, linguistics is the study of the structure of language. Ma'am, syntax, phonology, phonetics, the hard wiring of the brain that produces sentences and the words formations, ma'am. Literature, on the other hand, ma'am, is compositions which are in prose mostly. That uses some of the principles of linguistics, but is completely different from the study.
So, which books on linguistics have you read?
Ma'am, my introduction to the field of linguistics was by ma'am Steven Pinker's The Language Instinct.
Okay. Another thing, there's a very interesting theory, Heartland-Rimland theory. Have you ever read it? Because it is geopolitical theory.
Yes, ma'am, I am aware of the Heartland theory.
Okay.
Ma'am, if I'm not wrong, it's by Alfred T. Mahan.
No.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
Mackinder, sorry.
Mackinder,
Sorry.
Yeah.
Ma'am Mackinder, who argues that Central Asia is the pivot of world geopolitics, and whoever occupies Central Asia or has significant control over that landmass would have a significant advantage in dominating the world island that is Eurasia.
Okay. And Rimland theory, are you aware of that?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, the Rimland theory, ma'am, although I do not remember the name of the progenitor of the theory, Rimland theory argues that it's the coastal areas, which are 50% oceans and 50% land, and control over those landing beaches would decide who gets to control the trade in the oceans and consequently land, ma'am.
Okay. Now, since you are a student of international relations also, in the present context, present geopolitical scenario, how valid is the Heartland theory or the Rimland theory?
Ma'am, I've thought about it, ma'am, and in my opinion, ma'am, Ma'am, I think none of these theories in isolation do the job, ma'am. Ma'am, after Afghanistan crisis, we know that the heartland theory remains as potent as it was when in the 19th century, ma'am. But ma'am, the remnant theory for India is as important, ma'am. We have been looking to procure the Shinmaiwa drone planes, ma'am. So these planes allow 20 to 30 soldiers to embark and land close to the shores. So our Indian Ocean strategy also has been focused towards dominating the shore so that we can make landings in coastal areas and do the required jobs, ma'am. So this proves that none of these theories in isolation works, ma'am. I guess we'll have to look at all these theories
But
in
see, you have explained this Rimland theory only from Indian context. What about other areas?
Ma'am,
What about the present Ukraine-Russian conflict situation or the current crisis of Sri Lanka?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, in the Ukraine situation, for example, ma'am, domination of ports or capture of port cities has been an important element, ma'am. In fact, it was the Russian inability to take over Mariupol that has led to an intensification of the offenses in other areas. And had the Russians occupied Mariupol in the initial stages, ma'am, I think this offensive would have seen a closer end, ma'am. Second, with respect to Sri Lanka, ma'am, and domination of ports again, the Chinese incursion or Hambantota again matters to us, and so I would use those examples to argue, ma'am, the Rimland theory remains one of the most effective. And besides the fact that in the Second World War, the Normandy landings were about domination of the Rimland.
See, Yogesh, which are the four pillars of the criminal justice system?
Sorry, sir, I have not conceptualized this in my
No.
head as four pillars.
Like the criminal justice system, what are the four major stakeholders? Like you have the police, then
Sir,
judiciary, then prison, and these things. So, out of these four, what do you think is the weakest link chain? Because our criminal justice system has not been delivering the way it should have been. So, where do you think what goes wrong?
Sir, in my opinion, sir, it's the prosecution, sir, which needs to strengthen itself. It's the prosecution ability, the police and the government prosecutor complex that needs to handle situations better.
No, but prosecution will do the job which is given to them by the police department. If they don't do proper investigation, then what will the prosecution do?
Yes, sir, indeed, sir. It's the prosecutors always argue that they are always dealt a bad hand when it comes to evidence. However, sir, I think the role of the prosecutors in, for example, US and UK would be a little more than just primary prosecution, sir. They should act as mentors to police, sir. They should conduct routine training modules to ensure that crime scenes are never compromised, to ensure that the integrity of evidence is maintained, to ensure that there is no evidence that is collected which is.
This means that the prosecutor should be involved right from the very beginning when the case is registered. Is it not?
Sir,
But it is not happening in India, is it?
Sir, in my opinion, the prosecution should involve itself only when the police hands over the evidence or are convinced that they have a likely prosecution or likely conviction. However, sir, in my opinion, sir, it's the prosecution department's responsibility to ensure that the police and the mechanism is always capable of conducting their job in a proficient manner.
But they have no power to do that. Prosecution is a totally different department and police totally different department. How will they make sure the police does its job well and the things which comes to them comes in a right manner?
So this is a classic example of, in my limited understanding, so this is a classic example of departments that need to work together, sir. Working in silos, I think, has been an issue that we've been dealing with. For example, sir, a failure on part of policing services leads to an ineffective prosecution, and ineffective prosecution will lead to a frustrated police, sir. So I think this is one area where
how old have been the Police Act, which have been governing the police system in the whole of country?
1861 it was enacted. Sir, if I'm not wrong, I think it was 1861.
Yeah, and now the most of the states have gone for New Police Act. That also after intervention of the Supreme Court of India, right? And I have gone through this, even Punjab Police Act, the new Punjab Police Act, or any other state police act, the new one, and I have compared with what it was in 1861 and what it is now.
Sir, I'm sorry, sir, but I would definitely look it up, sir.
Okay.
We were talking of a card on that. Just 3-4 days back, we heard of something called BIMSTEC, BIMETC. Have you heard of it?
Yes, sir.
What is that? Tell me.
Sir, it's a multilateral organization for the Bay of Bengal community. Sir, its objective is that it tries to develop something called a security community, where all nations in the periphery of the Bay of Bengal region think of each other as enablers, as participants, and tries to construct a security community around that. So that's the primary objective, sir.
India has also acquired some responsibility. What is
Sir,
that?
So there are 8 pillars that have been officialized recently.
India has.
It's a security pillar, sir.
That's right. How you compare with SARC and SARC versus BIMSTEC? This was done in '97.
Sir, so BIMSTEC is not a replacement for SARC, and sir, I think in the medium to long term, our strategic objective should be to have a functional SARC. But sir, in the meanwhile, I think, and because of the sudden burst of Indo-Pacific onto the geopolitical scene, and the fact that economic regionalism is now a prerogative, with Bangladesh becoming the growth driver, I think, sir, Bay of Bengal community is not something that we could afford to look aside, sir.
I think Pakistan and China are being kept away.
Yes, sir, it's a great practical advantage that Pakistan or even Afghanistan are not members of this community. It allows us to set the agenda without significant impediments. So yes, sir, it's a great advantage to not have them in the community, sir.
So now coming to Professor
Yeah,
Mohan's
waiting
question.
for my turn to end. It's very important if your career and your education is oriented towards law. I would expect you to be a good teacher of law, because you know the ranking of your institute in India.
Yes, sir, it's ranked
great.
at once.
It's on the top. To get in it also is very difficult. And it's not ranked with the universities, it's like IIT and all that. After that, you want to leave your profession and take up some other job. Can you tell me where did change happened?
So there are 2 reasons that I've thought about, sir.
No reason. At which stage the change happened?
So my first year of law school itself, sir. It's an integrated course modeled on Harvard Law School, sir. So we get 3 courses on sociology, 2 courses on economics, 3 courses on political theory, 1 course on one.
Just a second. With the permission of the chair, I have to give you a joke. Take it serious. We shifted from the university last year, and in that same area, I find 52% or 55% people were advocates, practicing. Only 3 IAS officers, and probably only 2 college teachers and 1 university professor. I find advocacy is very flourishing. You understand my point?
Yes, sir.
How do you shift to civil services?
Sir, if I may use an anecdote to substantiate my reasons, sir. After my corporate legal job in ICICI, the reason I left it was because of an interesting opportunity that was offered to me. The opportunity was to work as an election liaison between. Now, it was a job that no lawyer had ever done, and my senior told me that you're from the Premier Law School. Your job is to instill a field of law where there is none. So, sir, the job burden that we carry is higher than regular lawyers, in my limited understanding, sir. That there's a new committee that was established, for example, which was called the Media Management and Monitoring Committee, and it passed orders as to the propriety of election campaign material. They did not follow any stare decisis. They did not have speaking orders, and so it was upon our insistence that we started building a body of law around it, sir. So it was like uncharted waters. So I thought, sir, as a law, I think my training as a lawyer helped me find pieces of law where I thought there were none before, sir. So I guess, sir, in my administration experience also, I would use the same principles of my training, sir.
I'm just curious, and that would be the last question, sir. How many people died in the Second World War?
So I would not have the
Thank
specific
you.
numbers.
Yogesh, what challenges do you anticipate in the civil services when you suppose you join an IAS officer and all? What challenges do you anticipate which you will have to face at different levels?
Sir, while I could only argue from what I've heard from others, sir. So one challenge is what I'm told is bringing about constitutional morality within the people. People often find themselves distant from laws and procedures, and it's to enable a feeling that a sentiment that the state is here to perform certain functions.
Yeah, this is very nice to hear about, but how do you plan to do that? How to educate the people about the constitutional this thing, and even among the people? We have 140 crore people.
Sir, in my limited experience, sir, to instill values of constitutional morality in people, it's not the knowledge of constitution that helps, sir. It's actually the knowledge of constitutionalism. It's providing people with a sense that state. Sorry, sir.
It sounds very good, but do you know, like we have got still 30% people of India who are below poverty line, and the type of education which people have got, I don't know what kind of education system we have. Then do you think people will listen to you only because you are collector or district magistrate or something like that? Only because they will listen to you what constitution says and what this thing, and do you
Sir,
think it's practical? And do you think that this is really a challenge before a district magistrate or any IAS officer?
So, exactly, sir, and what I was arguing, also, sir, is that I don't need to teach people in Constitution for them to have faith in the Constitution. They have faith in the Constitution when they see state, firmly planted, when they see state providing services, when they see state establishing law and order, a state that functions in according with articles mentioned in DPSP. And that, sorry, sir.
Okay, yes, it's fine. What I mean to say, ki every year we have only 100 IAS officer going. Right now we have got more than 4,000 IAS officers in the country. ठीक है ना? And if they are not able to do that, what is that which is holding them? They are young people, bright people, but what is that which is holding them? It's very good to talk about all these things, but what is that practically which is holding them not to do this? Forget about this one. Even the delivering the basic things, and delivering basic things like implementation of Manrega, implementation of simple welfare schemes, health schemes. What prevents them that they see to it that it's implemented correctly and it go to the people where it should go? I would really thought of it. I would meditate about it. What is that which is ailing the service?
So may I answer this in two parts? So one, sir, I don't think there has been a failure on part of the All India services, sir. I think the frontiers of state and their existence among different communities have expanded since 1950s. The state is more legitimate today in the subcontinent than it was in 1950s, and that's primarily because a lot of services have reached people. So we are more immunized today. There are district hospitals working. There are police stations. And as to the second part of the question, sir, what ails, sir? It's a myriad of reasons, sir. But I guess if I could restrict it to two, sir, I would say one, sir. Sir, Indian state has historically been a soft state, sir, and it has taken time for capabilities build up, sir. Expertise to come into the services, sir. And as in more and more expertise are entering the services, as more and more organized the state becomes, state government start coordinating better with local government, with the central government, and so these more and more services are going to reach the people, sir. And this is a structural issue that will solve itself in time, provided we hold our democracy together, sir.
Okay.
Okay, now coming back again to your national law school, you were saying coming back again and again. In reply to Professor Mohan's question, you said crores and crores of cases are there. Are you aware of one single initiative on your campus that was taken when you were there? Are you aware of that to expedite the process of solving the cases?
So there has been some student-led initiatives, so one of them is the Legal Services Clinic, which enables people, access under 39A. So basically, they ensure access to legal services. And then, sir, the National Law School has been part of the Digi Courts mission. Now, sir, National Law University in Delhi has been better placed to partner with the government because they're in Delhi and they supply an army of lawyers instantly. But, sir, National Law School for Bangalore region, sir, has been active in the Digi Courts mission.
Do you know a gentleman called Dr. Ashok Patil?
Yes, sir, I know Dr.
Are
Ashok
you
Patil.
aware what he did there?
Sir, he's a consumer law expert, and he helped government draft the
He
consumer.
set up an institution. What was that?
Sir, there is a consumer law center in our college, but I do not know the institution, sir.
Have you visited that? It's called Online Mediation Center.
Alright, no, sir, I would not.
First time in India, it has been set up on your institute. Online Mediation Center. I don't think you can miss it when you are living on the campus. Are you living on the campus?
Yes, sir, yes, sir.
Now, the point is that crores and crores of cases. Are you aware of something called ADR?
Yes, sir.
What does it stand for?
So, alternate dispute resolution.
So, what is the law in the CPC, Civil Procedure Code? Which section deals with it?
Sir, I do not remember that, sir.
Are you aware of section 89 of CPC?
Sir, no, sir.
Are you aware of the Lok Adalat mechanism?
Yes, sir. Sir, somewhat, sir.
So, can you tell me the difference between arbitration and mediation? You must have heard of it.
Sir, arbitration is in most cases is binding, sir, and arbitration is governed by an act, a statute. So the Arbitration and Conciliation Act, and sir, the judiciary, the panel that sits to arbitrate, the appointment of that panel is also statutorily decided, sir. While mediation is a private process, sir, where two parties agree beforehand beyond the statute to a mediator, sir, and its awards are not binding upon the parties, sir.
Mediator is appointed by whom?
Sir, there could be institutional mediator as well as, sir, the contracts themselves specify that in case of a dispute, such and such person would act as a mediator, sir. Sometimes the contracts themselves specify, sir.
So now, finally, coming to something I find here, Gram Sachiv Haryana. It was, I think your dad was there.
Yes, sir. So my father retired from armed forces in 2011, and since then he's been working at the local level, as a Gram Sachiv, sir.
What is Gram Sachiv? What is the job of Gram Sachiv?
Sir, Gram Sachiv is the pivot of, sir, Panchayati Raj bureaucracy, sir. Sir, he brings about an order to the functionings of the Gram Sabha. He, sir, typically has 2 to 3 Gram Panchayats under him, and he is answerable to both the the Panch, the Sarpanch, and the district magistrate or the block level officers.
He is a government official, is it?
Yes, sir.
He is a government official?
Yes, sir. He's a government official, sir. Yes, sir. And sir, most of the job that he does, besides the regular maintenance of records, are actually driven by the priority of the government, sir. So, for example, if Swamitva scheme is in full sway, then the Gram Sachiv would find himself doing that on a daily basis. If some other scheme is going on, then the Gram Sachiv will find himself doing that on a regular basis.
Say you are selected, you are appointed the district collector of Sonipat. How much importance you will give to a Gram Sachiv?
So from what I've been told, sir, that Gram Sachiv, as I said, sir, is the pivot of administration, sir, at the local level, sir. Sir, he has this delicate job where he has to be answerable to the Sarpanch because of responsibility, sir. But then he's also answerable to the district administration, which creates a duality of role. So, sir, in constitutional theory, our professor used to say always bureaucratize conflicts and politicize commonalities. So, sir, the conflict is bureaucratized at that level, sir. So, the conflict between locally elected people and the bureaucracy. So, he is the true pivot of that system, sir.
Do you plan to initiate some mechanism in motion to monitor the performance of the Gram Secretary, because he is working at very grassroots level, and most of the schemes, now the central government and state governments, they are trying to help the villagers, any scheme you take, and he is going to play a very important role being representing the government. In that case, do do you think that you should initiate something, some mechanism to monitor his progress? Because there are so many officials and many things are not, many systems, institutions are not working, they are not being monitored efficiently. So, do you think something should be there to do that? And what it could be?
So the primary hurdle, so if I may just take a minute longer, sir. So the primary hurdle for Gram secretaries right now, and especially in the state of Haryana, is that ideally one Gram Sachiv should have one Gram Panchayat.
Okay.
Or two at max, sir. So right now in the state of Haryana, one Gram Sachiv has 10 Gram Panchayats under it.
Okay.
So the area is just too wide
Right. Okay.
for anyone to effectively do any job, sir. So they are definitely overworked, and this leads to failures, process failures, sir. So, sir, it's a problem that I think of, that if I were to be a district commissioner, sir, in cases of sir, personnel shortage, sir, how would one effectively
Okay,
do the
but
job?
suppose that constraint remains because the government say, कि, okay, we cannot take out the financial. Okay, remaining, having that constraints, what do you think?
Sir, remaining with those constraints in mind, sir. One, sir, digitization.
Yes.
Sir, the government of Haryana has already ensured that almost everything is digitized at the state level. However, sir, there's a unique form of digitization that's already functional among the local bureaucracy, sir. Which is why, for example, when any asset is created, they do not wait for GIS indicator, GIS tags to go up. They just click pictures and send it to the district commissioner.
No, but in this environment of digitization, don't you think that Gram Secretary needs a lot of technical thing to handle these computers and this and that, like Swamiti Yojana or many other government, they should be computerized, they should be on his laptop, he knows what to do and all. So don't you think that he should have proper training for that one, given the background from which he comes?
Yes, sir. Sir, in fact, training of Gram secretaries has been the top of the agenda, sir. Sir, it's not that Gram Sachivs don't receive training, sir. Sir, in fact, they have 1 or 2 training modules every quarter, sir. It's the effectiveness of that training, sir. It's the post-training monitoring. It's checking whether those skills have actually been imparting. So I guess, sir, now that I think about it after this dialogue, sir, I think one way in which a district commissioner could ensure that his Gram Sachivs are effective is ensuring that if there is a Gram Sachiv who's been left out, who does not understand how digital process, he could take out time to actually educate them personally or through a mechanism to ensure that they are competitive, sir. Third, sir, I think the Gram Sachivs could be provided with some transport, so because they have to traverse huge areas and they have to be present in 2 to 3 Gram Panchayats on the same day. So an effective transportation system would be a great help, sir. Then fourth, sir, we could ensure that Gram Sachivs do not hog the conversation. Sir, it's the Gram Sachivs and Panch and the Sarpanch both communicate with the district commissioner and not one at a time, sir. So I guess that could also ensure accountability at some level, sir.
Okay.
Okay, your interview is over.
Yes, sir.
You can go out of this room and come back after 1 minute.
Thank you so much, sir.
For
Thank you so
something
much.
formal, chit chat with us.
Because we want to debrief you.
Take, before you come back, think on it. You wanted to ask some question?
Yes, sir, I do, but yes, sir.
सब याद करके आइए
You just go back and then come back.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Please.
जब ये बुलाएंगे
बच्चा बहुत अच्छा है.
Certain things that is our duty to tell you. Sir, आप पहले बताना चाहिए. नहीं पहले मैडम आप बताओ.
मैं ये कहने लगी थी, योगेश, द वे यू आर सिटिंग ना, आपका बैक तो पीछे रेस्ट कर रहा है इसके साथ, बट योर नेक इज स्लाउचिंग आगे, वो नहीं होना चाहिए, वो आपका बिल्कुल बैलेंस होना चाहिए, ठीक है. वो आप आगे थोड़ा सा बेंड हो तो वो उसका प्रेजेंटेशन अच्छा नहीं लग रहा है, नंबर 1. सेकेंडली, व्हेन यू एंटर्ड योर हैंड वाज ऑलरेडी ऑन योर बटन टू अनबटन, वो नहीं करना है. यू विल गेट एम्पल टाइम once you stand here and the honorable chairperson says कि okay please you may have a seat, then you can unbutton and then you sit. वो आप पहले से ही रेडी थे कि have to unbutton and have to sit, right? तो वो वाला चीज थोड़ा सा लगा कि वहां पे प्रॉब्लम था. तो अगेन अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग, इट इज नॉट अबाउट मी बट इट इज इन जनरल कि अगर आपका जो बोर्ड है और उसमें एक लेडी है, सो एज आपका जो जनरल एटिकेट्स होते हैं, यू शुड ग्रीट द लेडी सेपरेटली. दिस थिंग मिस्ड while you entered. जब आप गए तो डेफिनेटली यू विश्ड, राइट, बट वहां पे जो भी लेडी अगर हैं बोर्ड में, तो दैट बिकम्स योर नॉर्मल फॉर्मल एटिकेट्स टू विश हर सेपरेटली, राइट. एंड देन सर ने आपसे बिमस्टिक का क्वेश्चन पूछा था. आपने बिमस्टिक के बारे में बिल्कुल ठीक बताया, आपने सार्क के साथ उसका कंपैरिजन बड़ा अच्छा किया. तो इट वुड हैव बीन बेटर आप बिमस्टिक का बताते. आपने बताया मल्टी सेक्टोरल है, मल्टी सेक्टोरल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है, बट किस चीज के लिए है? तो अगर वहीं पे आप उसका फुल फॉर्म भी बोल दो, हार्डली मेक्स एनी डिफरेंस. तो वो आइडियली वहां पे होना चाहिए था. एंड as far as the strength is concerned, that's your expression, and that is perhaps all thanks to your linguistics, the interest in linguistics. That is why your vocabulary is very very rich, and the way you use the expression, the way you choose the words out of your dictionary, that's very nice. So that is one of your big strengths which you have. So that's like my observation.
We are quite impressed, and she has the points she has told you. They will be useful, improve you further.
I find you very much apt for it. Add a bit of enthusiasm. You see, it's very important. They want somebody to be eager, pushing, and never get defensive. Not knowing something is not important. Giving it sharp, direct, and clear-cut answer is better. One question I've got always, that be comfortable with the interview. That comfortable comes here, not with the quotes and all. You see,
Or
you must be prepared. For so many years you've been trying it, and now you should not appear that, well, I'm a person who has been rejected. You say, I'm coming to be selected. I want, this is my chance. There you are.
मुझे ये लगता है कि आपके मन पे थोड़ा बोझ है कि मैं पहले 4-5 बार गया हूँ. Don't bother with you.
Yeah.
वही कह रहे हो.
have you faced the UPSC interview before?
No, sir.
No. But any other interview?
So job interviews
Oh,
generally.
ICICI and all.
Yes, sir, college
But-
placements.
But that you totally knowledge domain oriented, no?
Yes.
Not the personality.
So in fact, my second job interview was also personality, but that was nothing.
See, from my experience, what I think, you have done very well, but still you can do better if you try to draw the board like a person into your strong areas, and that you can do by giving the answer where there are hidden questions, and then the board members will be tempted to ask on that questions because that is your strong points. Okay, so instead of the board members taking you to their subject matters, what you can do, your answers should be such that they are forced to go into your domain where you are strong and you can give more answers. But otherwise, interview is good.
हमारे हिसाब से you are fit to be through. You know? Okay. Anything you want to ask us? ये बताओ. हम तो वैसे ही बैठे हैं ना, हम तो informally हैं. So anything you want to ask us?
So as ma'am said, ma'am, even I was very conscious of unbuttoning. I think that's why I forgot to wish you and yes, ma'am.
No issues, no issues.
And ma'am, sir, I just wanted to. I haven't gotten a score yet from any of the boards, sir, and I don't have a score in mind. As in, out of 225, how much marks would I get with this?
Why are you bothered about that? You just go and appear before the board. You just forget how many marks you will get. And it does not matter also, even if you get 0 and your score in written is very good, then you are selected. That is the system in UPSC.
Yes, sir.
How have you your paper, mains paper?
Sir, I think I had good mains papers. Sir, this time. And sir, just one more question, sir. Sir, actually, I did my graduation in 2016, and my exposure is only to Representation of People's Act, sir. And
Exposure is only to?
Representation of People's Act and Model Code of Conduct. And I haven't really practiced. I haven't really dealt with law as such, sir. So, sir, I'm preparing law. I'm actually trying to finish all of my 5 years of graduation in 1 month. But, sir, it's proving tricky, sir. Sir, should I continue preparing my law, or should I just say that I do not know this? Would it look bad?
Preparing law means what?
I don't understand.
You have done your LLB.
Yes, sir. But it was long back, sir. So I do not remember much law from college.
So you want to refresh your law knowledge to go for practice?
No, sir. I want to refresh my law knowledge. So in case a board member asks me a question, I do not look completely void, sir. So
That you should.
You should not be worried at all. This is what I'm trying to tell you. This feeling you should go out of your head. You should say you are a law graduate from the National Law School, Bangalore. You should be very confident of yourself. I'm shocked to hear this. You should be very confident of yourself that you know everything. Forget about that.
And if you don't know anything, you should be very frank to say, sir,
क्वेश्चन
I'm
ऐसे
sorry.
पूछे जाएंगे, हाँ ये इतने करोड़ केस हैं, क्या करना है, डीआर क्या होता है, कैसे करना है, ये ऐसे ही होता है ऐसा.
And you don't have answer to all the questions.
You should be proud of this that you are from that college. No, sir? You are from number 1 school of the country.
There's no problem.
You should
I
be
know
proud of
about it. I know about it, and then they have produced good advocates, very good teachers, and very good law students.
Yes. Law students.
And it's rated. When you come back from that, your law should be flowing out of you.
नहीं सर, that is what is concerning.
That's the issue.
नहीं
It's
सर,
like Harvard.
सुनिए सर,
Much
उनका
better than Harvard.
नहीं सर, उसका कंसर्न
From that
यही, उसका कंसर्न यही है कि
It's
चूंकि
almost
लॉ
like
के जो
Harvard of,
सब्जेक्ट्स है, लॉ के सब्जेक्ट्स है, he is out of that
किसी
subject matter.
बहुत बड़े एडवोकेट
अब उसके बारे में सवाल पूछेंगे
जज
तो हम
को
क्या
वहाँ
कैसे
पे
उसको
आपके लिए
टैकल
बुलाया था लेक्चर के लिए.
yes, sir.
Who was the one?
So almost every week we used to have a guest lecture. My favorite was the former Chief Justice of Sri Lanka who came to our college and gave us a lecture on international humanitarian law. So that was one of my favorite lecturers. उसके बाद Professor Venkatachalaya, the retired Chief Justice, Madhav Menon, who was recently awarded Padma Shri. So they routinely visited, sir. So that was actually a great.
Somewhere during the interview you mentioned Delhi.
Yes, sir. NLU Delhi.
What was that?
Sir, they are in Delhi. So with the digitization process and reforming of the judiciary, sir, they have a greater heft there. So they routinely help out with the reforming of the.
I'm building you for an interview. Who has been the best, according to you? Don't worry about the data. Who has been the best advocate in India?
Sir, any lawyer who answers that. Sir, it's a tricky question, sir. I would say.
Who has been? No, please. It's a question for future. Who has been the best civil servant of India?
That also would be a very difficult answer, sir.
Think on it.
Yes, sir.
You understand my point?
Yes, sir.
You want not to be that, but to be that.
Alright, sir.
There has to be some ideal, some kind of mentor whom you are looking at it. Thank God, I want to be that.
Sir, I've been influenced by Mr. M.S. Gill, sir. I read his commentary on the way he organized elections and the way he introduced EVMs. And sir, I once heard him explain India's constitutional provisions for election commission to a
This is
Pakistani
good.
lawyer.
I like this expression. You must come out of your shell. Interview is yours. Come out of shell and then, yes, sir. You don't have to be defensive about it. And the best is, I think he will tell us, tell on our behalf much better. I think you should be selected.
तो ऐसा है, और गॉड से टेल यू वेरी फ्रैंकली, कभी अब पढ़ने मत लग जाना. ये कहेंगे जी वो पढ़ाई शुरू कर दो दोबारा, बिल्कुल नहीं पढ़ाई करो. प्रेज्यूम दैट यू नो व्हाटएवर इज रिक्वायर्ड टू बी डन, राइट. कहीं और पढ़ने लग जाओ, लॉ की किताबें पढ़ने लग जाओ, कोई जरूरत नहीं पढ़ने की. ठीक है.
तो आपके कोर्ट की कोई प्रॉब्लम है?
No, sir.
खड़े हो जाइए एक मिनट.
So he
लुक्स वेरी गुड.
हाँ जी.
मुझे लगता है थोड़ा सा आपका साइज बड़ा है, कोट छोटा है.
Yes, sir. Actually, I had bloated up, sir. I've lost 10 kgs in the last 60 days.
सर एक वाले यार.
Yes, sir. This is an old coat. I lost.
पर आपकी नेकटाई आई वुड लाइक टू चेंज इट.
Yes, sir.
आई लाइक टू हैव इट.
Just imagine how frank we are with you. हाँ. चलो.
Best interviews are those in which the people who are your umpire he also feel happy.
Alright, sir. Thank you.
आशीर्वाद दीजिए सर.
सर आशीर्वाद मैंने ज्यादा बाद में आशीर्वाद इनको बड़ा ज्यादा मत
हाँ जी सर, I'm here.
Yogesh,
Nice.
you do not worry about the fact कि I might not be knowing all the answers.
Thank you.
किसी को नहीं पता होता है. हो सकता है कि rapid fire हो जाए. And if say 15 questions are put to you, it is not necessary that you will be able to answer all 15 of them. यहाँ पे नहीं आता है, instead of ducking the question ना, simply say कि sorry I'm not able to recollect. I'm sorry
Yeah.
I'm not able to answer it. I don't know. Simple. So that the next question is put.
Yeah, I don't know.
But
See, the more important is how you answer the questions. There is right or wrong. There is nothing right or wrong. The way you answer the questions, the way, how confident you are. And whatever you say, you should support it with reasons and logic. That's all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay,
very
Yogesh,
good.
bye.
All the very best.
I think next week. Okay.